You have probably seen this painting before, on a calendar, on a cafe wall somewhere in Europe, on a phone case in a museum gift shop. It is one of the most reproduced images Van Gogh ever made, which is exactly why almost no one has ever truly looked at it. What I want to show you has nothing to do with its fame. Look at the night sky in this painting. Now look at the shadows on the cobblestones below. Now look at the darkness filling the right side of the canvas. The buildings, the receding street, the shapes dissolving into shadow. Here's something you should not be able to explain. There is no black in this painting. Not a single stroke of it. And yet you are looking at one of the most convincing night scenes ever put on canvas. Van Gogh wrote about this deliberately. He wanted to prove that darkness was not an absence of color, that the night was full of color if you were paying close enough attention to actually see it. Most painters were not. He believed he was. But the absence of black is not what makes this painting strange. What makes it strange is what Van Gogh hid inside the light. The year is 1888. Van Gogh has been living in Arles in the south of France for 7 months. He is 35 years old. He has sold almost nothing. And he is writing letters to his brother Theo at a pace that historians later describe as frantic. Sometimes 2 or 3 in a single day, filled with sketches, color theories, arguments about art, and a hunger so raw it is difficult to read. In September of that year, he takes his easel into the Place du Forum after dark and begins painting by candlelight. He is working from life. The cafe behind him is real. The people are real. The stars above him are real. He writes to Theo, "I enormously want to paint a starry sky. It often seems to me that night is still more richly colored than the day." This painting is the result of that belief, and the proof that he was right. Now, you have been told that Van Gogh painted with emotional abandon, that his brushwork is the output of a troubled mind working faster than reason could follow. That is the story. Here is what the story leaves out. Café Terrace at Night is one of the most architecturally disciplined canvases he ever made. Look at the lines. The edge of the awning creates a strong diagonal moving from upper left to lower right. The cobblestone street narrows toward a vanishing point deep inside the canvas. The edges of the buildings on the right side of the street angle inward, following the same trajectory. Every major line in this painting converges on a single point somewhere in the middle distance. A point that is dark, that is partially obscured, that you can feel but cannot quite locate. Van Gogh built a machine for drawing your eye into darkness, and then he put something at the center of that darkness that he never publicly explained. Look at the street surface. Most viewers scan past it toward the sky or the terrace. The cobblestones deserve your full attention. They are painted in blue strokes, orange reflections, yellow highlights, purple shadows. The ground is not ground, it is a mirror. The cafe's warmth is pooling across the stone, moving towards you, and the brushwork underneath your feet is shimmering. The entire street is alive. This brings me to the experiment I want you to try. Find any photograph taken at night on a wet city street, or simply go stand on one tonight. Notice how the pavement catches and holds light. Notice how the warmth of a window or a lamp extends along the ground far longer than the lamp itself. Van Gogh was doing this in 1888 in oil paint without a photograph to reference, painting by candlelight in real time. He was not painting what a night street looked like. He was painting what it felt like to stand on one. And that distinction is the reason this painting does something to you that a photograph of the same scene cannot. Now here is where the mystery deepens. The Last Supper reading, the 12 figures, the white-clad central form, the cross in the architecture has been contested by serious scholars for decades. Some say Van Gogh, who grew up the son of a Dutch Reformed minister and spent time as a lay preacher before he became a painter, was incapable of making a scene this charged with Christian geometry accidentally. His letters are full of religious language. He wrote about color as if it were spiritual. He called yellow the color of love. Others say he was documenting a cafe in Arles on a September evening, that the figures under the awning are diners, not apostles, that the cross shape in the architecture is a window frame. Van Gogh left no resolution to this question, but here is the fact that makes both readings harder to dismiss. This painting was made in the same month that he wrote one of the most revealing sentences in his entire correspondence. Instead of trying to reproduce exactly what I see before me, I make more arbitrary use of color to express myself more forcefully. He was not painting the cafe. He was using the cafe. The question, and I want you to sit with it, is using it for what? There is something else hiding in this canvas that almost no one mentions. In 2004, a team of astronomers and art historians published an analysis of the star positions in this painting. What they found was not what they expected. The arrangement of stars in the sky above the cafe corresponds, with significant accuracy, to the actual sky over Arles on the night of September 16, 1888. Not an approximation, not a stylistic scatter of light points across blue paint, an observable, verifiable arrangement of stars, visible from a specific location on a specific night. Van Gogh was painting from life. He was not decorating a sky. He was recording one. And yet, and this is the detail that stops me, he introduced the swirling, radiant halos around each star point that have no astronomical basis. The stars do not glow that way. He knew they did not glow that way. He made them glow that way anyway. He was painting what is real and what is felt at the same time, in the same sky. The ability to hold both of those things simultaneously, scientific accuracy and emotional intensity, is not common. It is, arguably, the defining quality of this particular mind. And this painting is one of the clearest documents of it that exists. The café still stands. It sits on the Place du Forum in Arles, France. They have repainted it yellow. They named it Le Café Van Gogh. Tourists photograph it against the night sky and post the image beside a reproduction of the painting. Almost none of them notice that the real cafe has no cross above the doorway. Almost none of them count the figures on the terrace. Almost none of them look at the street beneath their feet to see whether it shimmers. The building is there. The painting is in the Kruller-Müller Museum in the Netherlands. Inside a gallery you can visit on a Tuesday afternoon, if you choose the right train, from Amsterdam. It costs €12 to enter. The painting hangs without special treatment, no velvet rope, no climate-controlled case, no guard stationed in front of it. 80,000 people walk through that museum every year. I find myself wondering what percentage of them stop. Ending Van Gogh painted 37 major works in Arles before his mind began to fracture, and he checked himself into the asylum at Saint-Rémy. Many of those paintings are darker than this one, more tortured, more obviously the output of a man in crisis. This one is different. This one is warm. It contains people and light and a sky that someone stopped to observe carefully enough to get the stars right. And yet he hid something in it. Or he didn't. He embedded a theological argument. Or he was simply painting a cafe. He reached for two contradictory truths simultaneously, or it was accident layered on coincidence layered on technique. I don't know which is true. I am not certain anyone does. What I do know is that a man took a canvas into a public square after dark in September 1888 and painted a street that does not use black to describe darkness. He painted a sky that is scientifically accurate and emotionally impossible at the same time. He placed a white figure at the center of 12 gathered forms and said nothing about it for the rest of his life. And then he died at 37, having sold almost nothing. And the painting eventually ended up in a museum where it costs €12 to stand in front of it. If you stood in front of it, if you had the afternoon to spend, I want to know what you would count, what you would look for, what you would find that I have not mentioned here. Because every person who stops in front of a painting long enough sees something the person beside them does not. If you have a theory about the stars, about the figures, about what Van Gogh was actually building when he stood in that square by candlelight, leave it below. I read everyone. And if you want to know what else these paintings are carrying that no one thinks to look for, there is one more waiting for you.